Hello, and welcome to Justice for All's Connections with Coffee podcast. My name is Joel De Wit, Executive Director at Justice for All, and this is a monthly thing where we can try to give folks an idea the connections that Justice for All Ministry has, both around here and different partners around the country, and then a little kind of background on how they get together. Today I have Chris VanBeek with me. Chris, if you would,
sure,
just give a little about where you're at right now and who you're with and some of that kind of stuff, just a little general background information.
Okay. Well, I'd say it'll be 3 years in February that I'll actually have been on staff at Faith Reformed Church in Rock Valley, just like a block down the road over there.
Yep.
Kind of got into ministry quite a few years ago, I guess. Position opened up at Faith Church and put my application in there. And
so you've been full-time there for 3 years?
Just about. In February, it'll be 3 years. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
What did you do before that?
I worked in manufacturing, rock industries for almost 25 years. I started there and moved up through the place and did some CNC programming. And
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, no, hey, yeah, no.
That is that code for something?
Yeah, there's some code in there somewhere. Kind of self-taught a little bit with some other guys at the shop, and we can make parts, right, for hydraulic, agricultural, machinery, and we can just cut the steel and through CNC.
All right.
It's code.
It's code like things that I don't understand type of code, and there might be some programming code that I can't do that either.
Yep,
but
programming. Yep.
Okay.
So I did that for 25 years.
25 years of cutting steel and filling orders.
Filling orders. Yep.
Huh. All right.
It was pretty cool.
That's different than ministry.
Different than ministry. Yep. It's I started to kind of attend Faith Church. I'm not even sure. I'm not very good when it comes to years ago type stuff. Right. So I'll just say 12-ish years ago, started kind of attending Faith Church, started doing some things in their youth group, always knew Jesus, I think, in my mind really well.
Always being since you were little.
I was little, yeah, for sure.
Can I ask, did you grow up in Rock Valley?
Grew up, born and raised.
Okay.
Yep, 49 years now. I've been here, so that's how long I've been alive.
Okay.
So you know how old I am now.
Yep. Real quick. They did the math and they figured it out.
Grew up there. Always knew him, I think, but once we started getting a little more into ministry, even some of the, I guess, more local inside church ministries, whether that be the youth groups or children's, some Bible studies, some guys just kind of poured into me, and God did the rest. And went on from there, I think, and knew that I had something. I didn't quite know what that was. Still don't know what that is exactly. But I know where I am today. And
sure, you had something for ministry. So the Holy Spirit worked in you. I guess that's what I'm hearing is
for sure.
From you're halfway through your time at a machining place.
Yep.
So if I got this math figured out, you're 49. You did 25 years. Yeah. You did a pretty much out of high school went into machining.
Pretty much. Yeah. Yep. It was really close. I would have never guessed that this would be where God placed me today.
Okay.
Of course. I think maybe most of us could probably say that.
I would hope so. Right. Kind of. Like if we have it planned out, what do we need God for?
Yeah, right.
Sorta.
So would have never guessed that. And I can't believe the amount of opportunities that I've had in the last 12 years. And once you start to experience them, I always like to say taste and see. Mm-hmm. You start to taste and see what it's like to live for him,
Yep.
And whether that's seeing kids say yes to Jesus, being out serving in those opportunities. We did a lot of serving in our youth groups at Faith. And you come home different, a little bit different every time, I think. Royal Family Kids was a huge part that I got connected with maybe 9 years ago. And I'll say it time and time again that I'm sure I'm blessed. I feel more blessed than the people I'm blessing, and just, as opportunities came up, whether that was at Faith Church, which for me it was.
It is. Now it's a full-time deal.
Yeah, full-time. So I couldn't imagine doing anything else. And just being able to serve him alongside Justice for All sometimes.
Yeah. Yep.
has just been really cool too. Getting to know you guys a little more intimately, seeing how you guys work, and how you partner with us in so many different ways. And the different ministries even inside Rock Valley that I know you guys are connected to. Sometimes it's three of us all working towards one goal, but it's always to bless someone in the name of Jesus Christ.
For sure.
It's been a blessing.
So what is the? Do you have a title over there?
Oh man,
or is there just sort of a?
It's Chris. No,
you're just Chris. All right, that works.
Director. I would say care, missions, outreach, and then the goal is to tie discipleship into all of those, in all of our ministries. But we're trying to do that more and more, to help people as they serve grow in their faith alongside, and so that they can go make a difference in their neighborhoods or even maybe inside their own homes, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So yeah, for sure.
Okay. All right. So because I've gotten to know you, I don't know, it's been a couple of years, kind of like since you started at Faith full time.
Yeah.
Just, trying to get an understanding of what's the mission of Faith Church and how do they want to reach out to people? How can we work together? There's a lot of that, at least in my role, at least at Justice for All, just be able to work with things that are already in place and established, and we're not trying to tell someone else how to do it. We want to work together with people. We're on the same side. God can work through each one of us in many different ways, and we want to work alongside you and other partners, which is kind of how the podcast idea kind of came about, is the relationships that our ministry has with a lot of different people and how they kind of work together a little bit. Maybe help articulate what that kind of looks like a little bit.
How Faith Church kind of
and Justice
partners.
for All have worked together a little bit,
partnerships
recently.
For sure.
I got a couple things in mind.
I do too.
So go ahead.
So we'll see if we're on the same page or not. The first one that comes to mind, just because I was so close with it, was your first transitional home in Rock Valley. Our youth group, and particularly my small group that I kind of led with Jason Struby and I, we went there a lot of Wednesday nights. Sometimes made mistakes, but hey, that's how volunteers go.
That is,
But even to hauling out some of the stuff and being able to work in there, and then every time being able to, I think you were there one time with our group. Nick was there one time, and being able to share with them, what are you doing? It is taking down plaster. It is putting up sheetrock. It's hauling all that stuff out, but it had a purpose. So that was one that I think of now, and I know we've sent some people with applications for that same transitional home.
Well, there's someone there who just recently moved in through a connection to Faith Church.
Yep. So, that's beautiful.
That's full circle stuff there for me. Like, for real. Like, I remember in 2021, just like starting to do the demo process of that house with the idea of, hey, we'd love to be able to, have a clean, safe, affordable place for someone. And I know you guys weren't just, hey, it has to be someone from our church. It wasn't about that at all. It was, hey, we would love to just help out in this ministry how we can. And the first two tenants, they didn't go to Faith Church, but this one turned out to be that way. And that's just, it's cool. It's just a part of how God can work through a bunch of different things without humans looking at the end saying it's going to be like this, and that's not typically how it goes. For sure.
Another one that comes to my mind right away is and this one probably involves Love Incorporated also. As they run into people that come into their ministry doors looking for specific items, a lot of times I know Love Inc. reaches out to Justice for All for a couch or a chair or a bed. And they'll include us in that as a delivery person, So then our ministry gets to love them in a little different way, and then there's a connection made, right? Maybe someone new to town, maybe someone that's going through a tough time, and we can continue to support them. Hopefully that relationship starts, and then of course always our prayer is that relationship points back to Jesus.
Absolutely.
So that's another one. Our youth groups being able to come here and volunteer on Wednesday nights. I know Nick's been doing some things with that. Royal Family Kids. I know that is a part of one of our ministries at Faith.
Yeah.
How you guys have collected items for us over the years to help us be able to provide that ministry. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Am I missing a couple of them? Those are just the ones.
Yeah, those are some of the ones that like came out to just real. Off the top of my head,
Right.
that's sort of doing the transition house and servicing with your youth groups. I think it's always something that we have the ability to just hey, is there a resource for volunteer work or a resource for people to come move some things around or any of that kind of thing? It's just we know that the heart's there, and if it can work out, that's always a place where we always go and check with, just because we know that that side of it.
Yeah, and we've seen the blessings, that maybe you don't always get to see, maybe with this family or with the people that we get to bring the things that come into Justice for All. If we get to be that delivery mechanism, and a relationship starts, maybe that is something we got to work on. Maybe I got to share that stuff with you a little more.
Yeah, I know. I think
We're
about
coming up
that
with new stuff here.
I know. Well, I think about that from time to time because there's a lot of folks. Well, there's a lot of stuff that gets donated just in general.
For sure.
That comes through our doors. Like drop-off room seems like it's always. Some people are always stopping and dropping things off, and part of me thinks it'd be great to connect where things go with the person that dropped it off. I don't know if that's
Yep.
Because I also know it's part of our ministry's role isn't to do all of it.
Right.
So we're not going to go deliver it and check in with this person and follow up with this person and make sure that that's just not what our calling is. That's not what our role is. So we're not doing it to know that. And it would be kind of fun to be like, hey, this person, excuse me, this person did come here for a while and they've moved on or wherever they're at in their life and their story a little bit, but just because there is some of that the connection back to it, like, oh, that's right. We're not doing this, because we want to get the glory, or because we want to have the spotlight on us. We're trying to do it just to work with other folks to just, have God be the glory and have Him and His Spirit move through people into having a better life and a better sense of purpose and self-worth.
Yeah. No, I think you wrapped it up really well. I think it's about Him. I do think there's times where He encourages us by showing us them things.
For sure.
What He did with what you're doing, I know there's moments where I get to look and be like, wow, I would have never have guessed that, but how amazing is that God chose this whole thing that to bless that person in a way that's going to affect their eternity, not just a comfy place to sit or some pots and pans, but that's what secured their security. Maybe their faith in Jesus came through those things, So as people donate, that's another thing I thought of just now too, is if you guys doing things like for Ukraine that time, specific things, that gives a really tangible way for people in Rock Valley, not just Faith Church, to say, hey, there's a need that we know of and we're trying to fill it. And would you help us? And these are the things we're looking for. And I think if our goal is always His glory, His kingdom, I think what we're doing then is probably right, and He'll bless it to the point of people being saved.
Yes, right. Hopefully, right.
That's it.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
What are some things that are, we'll talk about Faith Church a little bit. What are some things going on there that are new, exciting? Fall season has kind of started, and I know kids getting back into youth programs and things are happening.
Definitely our youth programs are going. We have RCYF and Crew. We have children's ministries as well, Wednesdays, Sundays, of course. We're always looking to include our discipleship. When we call discipleship, our mission statement at Faith is to make disciples who make disciples.
Okay.
So it's just a continual rotation, right?
Yeah.
Someone says yes to Jesus. Our goal is to equip them to be able to take what they've received and give it to somebody else.
Yeah.
And then that person can come and I think it's a really cool model because it was Jesus' model, I think. So just to equip people, and we're always looking for new ways to do that. Whether that's through some classes, which we're working towards. We don't have a name for them yet, so I'll give you two names.
Okay. What classes, like what, pathway, I guess. Okay.
Or it's like an equipping pathway. And for me, kind of the idea is that it would start by really going through the gospel again, because I got to know that in order to share it well,
For sure.
So part of that is gospel. Part of it is understanding calling. My calling might be different than yours.
I would imagine.
I would imagine it is. Maybe you have different gifts or different talents.
Sure.
Helping people find those.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of a making disciples at the end. How can I take this gospel, my gifts and talents, and then use them to share this gospel message?
Yeah.
And then hopefully having places in there, because I'm not a big study. I like to study, don't get me wrong,
Sure.
but I got to have some hands-on stuff too once in a while.
Uh-huh.
That's why I want to get into transitional home and take apart some stuff,
Yep.
put some screws in, some sheetrock. But I think that's maybe where I feel like we've kind of missed. I think there's a part of that too, that Jesus sent his disciples out. He showed them. It wasn't all classroom, let's say. There was some hands-on stuff.
It wasn't all theory and knowledge up here of what it looks like.
Yeah,
but it's,
for sure.
It's the ability to work alongside someone or to be next to somebody doing something, right?
Yep.
And whether that's, hey, we're working together making a pizza, having dinner, or we're able to, put sheetrock up on a wall or whatever that might be. It's being in proximity to other people. So is this for like newer Christians, or is this just like I don't know, maybe you haven't done it yet?
We haven't done it out there yet. No, it's not out there yet. So, but eventually we hope to get more towards things like that. We know, or at least in my story, I want people to experience those opportunities, whether it's with JFA or it's taking a trip or being a part of youth group, because I think we get changed in them.
Yeah. Well, I think absolutely.
And we grow in faith. We grow in trust, so that when that opportunity comes, I'm not like, oh man, what do I do now?
Yeah.
I don't know how to do this. Yeah. Maybe it's even practicing having conversation with people.
It seems daunting a little bit, right? Like to share, because I guess when I think about, if I'm going to witness to somebody, I think I need to tell them about how I became a Christian a little bit,
your
right?
Story,
like what's my story? How can I relate to someone, hey, I get that because this is something that I went through. Yeah. But then you're the one who's going to put it out there a little bit, right? Like you got to be able to be comfortable with where you're at to share that part of it, for them to be comfortable to say, oh,
100%.
He doesn't have it all figured out either. I don't even know if I have any of it figured out some days.
I don't either. And I think, the more faith we have, the more trust we have. We see that in Scripture too. I think, you see guys like Moses and you see guys like Peter, who you're like, there's no way, but they did, you know, not maybe right off the bat. It took a little convincing.
You got to grow into some of that a little bit.
Yeah. So I think that's our hope.
Sure.
Is to be able to give people a little bit more of that. And I think some of it is through knowledge and learning. Yeah. But I think some of it's through, experiences, let's call them, of serving or loving others in a different way.
Absolutely.
Because and I know, you never come back the same, whether it's through Royal Family Kids or a service and learn opportunity, or
you're going to have a different perspective.
Groups,
all of that. Yeah.
You're going to come back different. And I've been to a lot of things, and every one of them has changed me in a little bit somehow. Yeah. Somehow. Oh, yeah. So that's what we hope to offer people, I guess,
to give them and so that's kind of what the course would be kind of about then.
It would have a little bit of all of those things, maybe different segments we're talking about. But that takes a little time and a little effort. I mean, we do.
Yeah, you have to be intentional about it a little bit.
Sure.
It can be. But it can be.
It's always one of them things that sounds so good to me, and I'm like,
we can plan this out, right? We can figure it out.
We'll see how it turns. But I think that is ultimately the goal of Faith Church, whether you're in our youth ministries or children's ministries or adult ministries, Bible studies. Whether you come on a Sunday morning, I hope that's what you hear is this gospel message, and then the call Jesus gives so often in Scripture to go now and baptize,
and make disciples.
For sure.
So, for sure.
Because in the end, that's what really matters. So.
Any other new things that are going on, or any other outside of that? I don't know. Is there other faith things? I know that there's a change in leadership a little bit over there recently.
Yeah. Keith took a call to Oregon, which he's greatly missed. I love that guy quite a bit.
Yeah,
I believe that'd be missed. Dear close friend of mine. kind of a mentor. So it's difficult to see him kind of take off. But after kind of the shock of it a little bit, I think for him too, God does that to us when we're not always ready.
Yeah.
I'm excited because I know that as he goes, the gospel goes.
Yeah,
and I had to be reminded more than once in the process or the transition that God's not leaving and the Holy Spirit's not leaving and Jesus isn't leaving, but Keith is, and he's taking them with him, but they also stay. So yeah, there'll be some transition kind of coming up in the next, which is something Faith Church hasn't been accustomed to. So we've been, between our last pastor, Pastor Mike Molinar, and Keith Seachter, it's probably been 25 or 26 years since we've searched.
That's quite
so we're calling it discovery, instead of search, because we're just out discovering who God already has planned for us and what that looks like. So,
that's fair.
So yeah, a little different, some different. That's probably why I kind of gave you a few different hats, just trying to kind of cover those things as best we can.
Yeah.
Probably what's making the discipleship pathway or the equipping pathway take just a little longer.
There's other things that need to be discovered before that.
Yeah,
but that
I think so too.
That doesn't need to be taken a back burner necessarily. It's just a little off to the side because there's other things that are coming up, which is understandable.
Yep, I love that. I love how you said that.
Royal Family Kids Camp.
Sure.
I guess share with us a little bit about what that is.
Okay. So yeah, it's a national organization actually, and we're a chapter of that national organization. It's called Royal Family Kids Camp, and it runs kind of under Faith Church. It's one of its ministries there.
Okay.
So it is a foster. Or it's a camp, I guess, a week-long camp, just like a normal camp that you would send your kids for a week-long camp, but it is strictly for foster kids of Northwest Iowa.
Okay.
So our chapter does Northwest Iowa. There's other chapters around the country, but all of our kids are foster kids living inside maybe a 75-mile radius in Northwest Iowa.
So from Sioux City up to the border.
Yep, to Spencer maybe, or out to Spirit Lake. We get out to there too. So they come in, and we treat them to a week of camp, free of charge for them. We bring about 60-ish or so kids maybe a year around in that. It's gone up or down at times, and probably about 70 to 75 volunteers.
That is a lot of volunteers.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's grown up to that over 9 years now.
Okay.
But what we do is we pair these kids with a mentor or a guide, we call them.
Okay.
So they spend this whole week at camp with this guide, almost 24 hours a day. So you're in the same bunkhouse with them, you're eating meals with them in the morning.
Yep.
You're going canoeing in the afternoon. We do a girls' pamper day. I've even got my nails done there before. It was good.
They probably like that. They probably like that.
Flag football day.
Sure.
At night we have a down on the farm night. We're bringing animals. We do a kind of a color run or an amazing race night.
Yep.
Just a bigger events. We do a talent show for the kids, which is one of my favorite nights. They get to do a talent, from drawing a picture to braiding hair to singing a song.
Sure.
And so they just get to be kids. Try to take away some of those worries that they might have as foster kids, and then in turn love them like Jesus loved us.
Yeah.
Whether that's through chapel times, we eat together, like I said, as a family. We bring volunteers. We call them grandpas and grandmas. We call them uncles and aunts because it's a royal family.
It's a family.
And we want them to feel loved in a new way that maybe they've never felt. Riding bikes. We took kids bowling one time.
Yeah.
And so many of those things these kids have probably never experienced. So it's experiences that are amazing, right? And all the things and the things we send home with them. But it's always the people when these kids talk about camp that made the difference to them,
Yeah.
Doing things alone. Swimming's great, but all by yourself, it's not that great. But when you have somebody that's there and is fully attentive to you,
you get to share that experience with them.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, and they get the full, I guess, relational experience of, hey, I have someone who is here just for me.
Just for me.
It's not a lonely situation. I would imagine foster care being a lonely situation.
Can be. Yeah.
a lot of times.
Very much so. Who, for some reason, the state of Iowa said you can't live in your home.
Right.
It isn't safe for some reason. We don't always know why, and we don't want to know why.
No, but I'm sure it would run the gamut on reasons.
Oh, yeah, like you wouldn't believe. All right here in Northwest Iowa.
Yeah.
And these kids come in, and we get to love them. And there's hard days, and there's great days.
Sure.
But it's touched me and changed me every year. And I'm thankful that Faith Church stepped up to kind of take care of that ministry.
Yeah.
But over my 9 years now, we're actually seeing some of our foster kids who were in our camp come back and volunteer themselves as 18-year-olds.
That's pretty cool.
Because it just meant so much to them. I won't tell too many stories, but I'll tell you this real quick one. It was bedtime. I was talking to this young man, and he asked me how much I was getting paid.
Oh,
just
really?
to kind of go back to being loved.
Sure,
you
right?
know?
Yeah. What's in it for you?
What's in it for me?
Yeah.
He wanted to know,
why are you here?
He said, my social workers get paid.
They do.
My foster family gets paid.
They do get paid.
Doctors, therapists,
Yep.
they all get paid.
Yeah.
So he's like, what do you make here? And I said, I'm here for free. I'm volunteering to be here just for you guys. And it just blew him away. And and that was a 9-year-old boy.
Yeah.
That's thinking that way, So
that's what he's known, right? It's been someone who's like his parents must have, or his whoever must have put into him like, I'm here because I need to get something out of you, or I'm here getting something from this. Like,
so I was able to tell him, you know what, I'm here just for you because I love you, and it was just, and so to be able to see a few of those things being seen and experienced there.
Yeah.
And just always praying for those kids that they would see the love of Jesus through some of that stuff.
That's pretty cool.
But we're always looking for volunteers.
Yep.
If you're interested, you can get a hold of me at Faith Reformed Church. It's just down the street from Justice for All.
Yeah, it's close by.
It's close by. We're always looking for those, and it's usually, I would say, the beginning of August. I don't have the dates exactly set for this coming year yet, but it will be that first week of August or so.
Okay.
When we run our camp. So and you will not come home the same. I
would believe that. I would believe that. I bet there are some stories and some experiences.
Stories, it's been a blessing to me.
Yeah.
It's changed my life. So
yeah, if you want to look at volunteering for that, Faith Reformed, talk to Chris.
Yep.
This kind of gives folks an idea on some of the connections and the relationships that, Justice for All has as a ministry to different churches. So we've talked about it earlier in this thing about having, youth groups come and partner with us, and whether that's doing demo work at a transitional house or sorting through clothes or packing a trailer, whatever it might be. There's always odds and ends, things that come up around the warehouse that, if there's ways that we can work together, as well as service and learning trips. There's some groups youth groups from different churches that are looking at going on a service and learning trip to Jackson next summer. And that's just one of the ways that we can work with churches and work with, expanding, God's kingdom, essentially, down here. And that's ultimately what I'm trying to do. What we're trying to do is we're all on the same side in that regard. So that's kind of a little background as far as what the relationship can look like between a church and Justice for All and the different, facets that we have some things.
I want to add I know we've come and we've talked about volunteering and coming here, but we've also had needs in our specific church family and that we've seen, and we have come to you guys and said, hey, there's a need. Can you help us fill it? And I don't want to speak for Justice for All here, but that's been a blessing to me in my role there, and just a person in the community. So I know these guys are here, and there is a place for them here to help you love others.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We're not, I guess my view of it is material possessions are just material possessions that can stick around. And what we as a ministry want to do is hopefully strengthen the relationship that's either blossoming or is already in place. So if someone from Faith Reformed has something with their neighbor and their neighbor's looking for something, if you have some sort of relationship there or connection to show some of that, come and check out with us, because like I said, for me, it's just stuff. And
Yep.
if a new winter jacket or
Yeah.
a new dresser can help strengthen the relationship that you have with your neighbor, or that you have with a person who's doesn't know Jesus,
Amen.
then we want to be able to strengthen that too.
It can be an open door, right? A way to
Absolutely.
start a relationship sometimes.
Absolutely.
So just thankful for you guys.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
So I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thank
and
you.
I appreciate the work that you're doing out at Faith and getting to know you these last few years. And I know it'll probably continue a little bit.
Yeah, I'm thinking we're good.
Yeah, we can work on it pretty well. So, if you have questions about volunteering for Royal Family Kids, or you want to get to know more about it, you can check in with Chris over at Faith. And my name is Joel De Wit. I'm Executive Director of Justice for All. Chris VanBeek from Faith Reformed. Thanks very much for listening. Thanks very much for watching, and God bless you.
Yep.